In this video, I'm going to show you how to install an exterior door to fit into a 2x6 wall, and we're going to extend the jamb to do so. And if you're new to this channel, my name's Josh. This channel is all about DIY to save a ton of money. So be sure to subscribe, ring that bell so you get notification every time I release a new video, and hammer that like button for me. That's all I ask in return for making this video. So we got a lot to do today, so let's get started. I'm going to explain to you the benefits of extending your own jamb. If we take a measurement here, this is a 2x6 wall, and this door is meant for a 2x4 wall because the jamb on this door is only 4 9/16, so it's 2 inches less than what we need. We need the jamb to be 6 9/16, so it's going to give us enough room for our drywall to butt up against it and give us a nice finished look. So we got to extend the jamb on this door. And if you're wondering the benefit of doing so, it's because it's much cheaper than ordering this door special order with the extended jamb for a 2x6 wall. And it's very simple to extend your own jamb, so I'm going to walk you through it. First step to extending the jamb is to remove the brick mold. So there's a very easy method to remove the brick mold. I'm going to have my helper sit it right out here in front of the camera. We're just going to take a 2x6 block and hold it right in the back against the brick mold and just hit it with a hammer, and it's going to knock it off the jamb. Now that we got it broken loose off the door, we just got to pull it all the way off. And always try to keep it together if possible, like so. Set this to the side. I'm now going to remove any of the brad nails that are stuck in the door. I'm just going to take my hammer and a block in order to use leverage to pull them out. I'm now going to place sawhorses here, and then we're going to lay the door on top of it in order to work on this jamb. And another tip, keep the pasteboard on the door so that way it protects the door while it's laying down on the sawhorses. When we extend the jamb, it's going to go right up against this threshold, and if we measure over, we need to come a 1/2 inch over from the inside and keep that same reveal as we extend the jamb. So we got to mark it up above in order to keep that same reveal. I'm just going to measure up a 1/2 inch up onto the door frame, so we know that's the height in which we got to extend our jamb up to. So I'm going to take a measurement down off the bottom of the door frame up to there, and we got 80 3/4 inch up to that mark. And now, in order to get our measurement for across the top, you simply just measure from this side of the door to this side of the door, and we got 37 1/2 inches. The product I'm going to be using to extend the jamb is PVC board, and this is a 7 1/4 inch piece that's 10 foot long. And as you can see, it has a wood grain finish here and a smooth finish on this side. I'm going to be using the smooth finish to match the door. And if you have a jamb that's made out of wood, you could also switch out your brick mold from wood to PVC and make this part PVC. And even though the door is made out of wood on the jamb, so that way at least part of it is going to be protected from the weather. So I need to rip this down into 2-inch strips. So in order to do so, I recommend using a table saw, because if you use a circular saw, it's very easy to get off and you won't be able to have a perfectly straight line if it is off some. So a table saw makes that much easier to achieve. I'm now going to adjust my table saw to 2 inches. So I rip down my strips 2 inches wide, and always double check the blade, because that is where the true cutting comes into play. Even though it says 2 inches here, sometimes it might not be perfect, but this saw is pretty accurate, so that looks good there. When I cut PVC board, I always try to wear a respirator, so that way I don't inhale any of the fine particulate, and also some ear and eye protection. I'm now going to cut down the PVC board strips into the lengths that we got off the door. 2 of them are going to be 80 3/4, then one's going to be 37 1/2. Now that we got our strips cut, the tools that we're going to need are an impact driver with a star drive that's going to drive these composite deck screws, and they have small heads on them, which is going to be great for attaching the jamb extension on. And then I got a 1/8 inch drill bit, and I got the clamps in order to clamp the jamb onto the door as we secure it. I'm first going to take the top piece and hold it flush to each side of the door. And now I'm going to take my pencil and just mark right here where you see where the frame of the door is placed together, because that's our 1/2 inch measurement. So there, and then I'm going to come down here on this side and do the same thing. And then I'm just going to take a speed square and make square lines down each one of those marks. I'm now going to place that right back up there onto the door frame. And now I'm going to place my door jamb extension to where the factory edge is up if I have one, and if I don't, that's fine, because the middle piece like this one won't have a factory edge. This isn't a factory edge, so we're going to put factory edge up. Now I'm going to place it right onto the line we made, and I'm going to secure it using those composite deck screws. I'm now going to take the 1/8 inch drill bit, hold it together like so, and then make sure we pre-drill this first. I'm now going to take my impact driver and a composite deck screw. I'm going to place it into that top, into the side jamb. Now I'm going to place another screw here for the bottom. I'm now going to put this side on and do the same as we did to this side on this side. Now that our extension's together, we're going to line it up on that 1/2 inch mark that we made from earlier. And we're going to line it up flush in the center of this frame. So that mark, if you look down here, we're about center there as well. So right there's where we want it. And now I'm going to take one of my clamps and I'm going to clamp the jamb extension right into place so it doesn't move. And then I'm going to go over here on this side and do the same thing. Now that the clamps are holding it where we want it, we simply just take our drill bit and drill through the extension down to the jamb and then place a screw. And make sure you countersink the screw so that we can caulk over that later. Now we remove our clamps and do the same similar idea to the side. So we're going to come down here to the bottom and we're going to put it tight against that threshold. We're going to clamp it right here. Now we're going to go in the center and get our reveal the same. Now we put one right here in the middle. And then I just put one here between the bottom and the middle, and one between the top and the middle. Now we do the same to the other side. I'm now going to address the side of the jamb extension. I'm going to start by placing the bottom tight against the threshold. So if you remember, that's our 1/2 inch measurement for our correct reveal. So I'm going to hold it into place and place a clamp here. And then I'm going to come to the middle and place a clamp here at the correct reveal as well, which is about a 1/2 inch. Now I'm going to take my drill and pre-drill one here, one in the middle, one here, then one at the bottom. I'm now going to take my impact driver and the composite deck screws and place a screw in each one of those holes. And remove the clamps. Now the jamb extension is installed. I'm now going to place the brick mold right over that new jamb extension. Now that I have the brick mold sitting back on top of the door, I'm going to nail it off using my trim nailer, and you can also just use regular galvanized finish nails for this, but since I have this on hand, I'm going to use it. And I can only get about a 1/16 of an inch reveal here because of the way the extension was placed. Now you could have took that extension in a little bit so you get more reveal here, but it's going to work fine as long as I can caulk it. So let me nail this off. Before I set the door in the opening, I'm going to dress this bottom. And because I got wood exposed down here, I'm going to use flashing tape to wrap it, just to add a little extra security. Our door hinges are going to be up above this, so it really won't hurt the door long term, but it definitely will hurt this wood getting moisture down under here. So just for some extra security, I'm going to take flashing tape and wrap this bottom in order to get it covered up well. Because there's concrete here and it's not a wood substrate, I don't have to worry about flashing this, but if I did, I would wrap this flashing around here as well. And now, since this is concrete, I'm just going to take liquid nails and I'm going to place it right down across the bottom here to support the threshold. It also helps water from penetrating below as well. Now we're going to set the door right in place. I now have the door sitting here ready to be placed in the opening, but first thing you need to do is make sure this plug that's on this side of the jamb is taken out of the door, so that way we can open it up so the door will actually sit in place after we set it here with the weight of its own slab. I'm also going to make sure my 4-foot level and my trim nailer is here nearby, so when I set the door into place, I'm ready to go. And I got a helper with me this time, so we're both going to set the door into the opening. Now I'm just going to open up the door, and as you can see, the weight of the slab is holding it into place so we can get everything situated here. Now, first thing I'm going to do is make sure the door is perfectly center of the opening. If we take a look here, looks like we got about an 1/8 inch gap down at this bottom. And if we look over here, got about a 1/4 inch gap, so we just got to move it over just a little bit. All right, now we got the door perfectly center. Now that we know the door's center of the opening, we're going to check to see how level we are on the bottom. It actually shows the bottom's really level, so now we're going to place it on the sides. And the side's actually setting pretty plumb as well. So I'm going to go ahead and tack a nail in the bottom of the hinge side into the brick mold and into the side of the garage. And now before I go any further, I'm going to have my helper hold the door so it doesn't follow the opening. I'm going to open and shut it from the inside and check the reveals before I secure any more nails into the brick mold. Okay, I'm going to shut it. All right, if we take a look at the reveal, as you can see, it's tight here. Then down at the bottom, we got a slight gap. So that's indicative of knowing that we got to draw this side over. As you can see, we got plenty of room here to drive it over. So now I'm going to drive that screw right through this hinge to draw this up. Oftentimes your door is going to come with an installation pack, and it's going to have these wedges that's used to put around the weather stripping after it's all said and done. And we also got our screws for each hinge. It sends 1 screw per hinge. So I'm going to go ahead and take out one of those screws and drive it into that top hinge. As you can see, they left a screw out right here in order to place this screw. Now I'm going to check the door to see if it closes better. Now when we shut the door, let's take a look. And it looks like the reveal's much better. Across the top, you always want to leave it a little tighter on this top than you do this back corner, because over time it's going to settle some. So that actually looks exactly the way I want it. If we look here, we got a good 1/8 inch gap there. Then at the bottom, we got about the same. And now we got to drive a screw in the center to draw this over, which is common. Other than that, the door closes really well. And actually, that's good as far as the adjustments with the screws on the hinges. So now we just got to shim this tight at each hinge. I'm now going to take a pack of shims and place shims tight into each hinge right here where we need them. And then we're going to tighten up the screws in order to secure them into place. And note, there's no screw in this middle hinge or the bottom hinge right now, so we just put them in snug. We don't want to force them in at this point. We can now place the remaining 2 screws, one in this hinge and then one in this hinge, and snug them up. And now in order to adjust the latch side, I must first start a screw here right behind the weather stripping. In order to do so, I'm going to take my 1/8 inch drill bit and drill through that frame first. In order to countersink the screw head, I'm just going to use the number 2 Phillips bit and round it out. And I'm now going to place my deck screw into that hole. And when I tighten this up, I need to make sure my brick mold is tight against the side of the garage, and then tighten this up. Now we're going to check our reveal. When we shut our door, as you can see, it's still hitting a little bit, so we need to tighten up that screw in order to get the correct reveal, and hold some shims right behind that screw and then tighten it up. And we're going to test that there. All right, that looks really good there. Now that the door is secured with the screws and we got a couple tacks in the brick mold holding it into place, I'm just going to go through and nail off the brick mold on this edge of it to hit into the garage. I'm now going to take my flashing tape and flash down the garage wall, then over the brick mold, so that way when water hits the side of the house or the garage, it hits that flashing and then rolls over the door instead of going behind it, which it will leak if you let water go in behind this, so you definitely need to flash at least the top of the door. So I'm just going to start by peeling off just half of the wrapper on the back of this. I'm now going to take this half that's unpeeled and place on top of the brick mold first. Now that's stuck to the top of the brick mold, I'm going to peel this back off and stick it to the garage. All we got to do is peel this tape and then stick it right to the wall. Now, as you can see, when water comes down the wall, it's going to go right over that brick mold or down the side. I'm now going to take white silicone caulk and run it down the side of the brick mold, so that way when the water goes across the top and down the side, it doesn't go behind the brick mold. And this is something that maybe overkill as well, because typically it's just going to run down the side of the wall. But since I got some on hand, I'm going to use it. And I'm going to do that on each side of the door. I'm now going to cut this flashing tape to fold over this side. I'm now going to take paintable exterior caulk and caulk the joint where the brick mold meets the extension and where the extension meets the door jamb. I would also like to point out there is a threshold extension that you can add to these, but since I'm on concrete and it's slipped away, I'm not worried about it. But it would snap into this groove and extend past this concrete. And if I had a wood threshold here, I would definitely add the threshold extension. I'm now going to break off these shims from the inside. You can take a utility knife and just score them and then snap them, or you can take an oscillating tool and cut them off as well, whichever way works for you. I'm now going to install these door corner wedges. These are just foam wedges that help the weather stripping seal when the door shuts in the corners. In order to install this foam wedge, it ultimately is going to be right behind this weather stripping like so. But first, all you got to do is peel this back off. It's just like a piece of tape. And then you're going to stick it right into this corner nice and tight. And now it's going to help wedge that weather stripping out just a little bit to seal better. And just so you're aware, when the door's shut, wherever you see light coming through is where you place these strips. You don't place them wherever light's not coming through because it's already sealed good enough. So that's how I always determine where to place these. In case you're wondering, why do we extend the jamb from the outside and don't just build in the inside? And that's because if you open up this door, if this was countersunk into the wall, the door would open up and hit against the rough opening of the door. So you always have to extend from the outside. So I hope that clears the air, because I'm sure some of you guys were wondering that. I'm now going to use this product called Great Stuff. All it is spray foam that's going to be used to insulate around the door. And first, to use it, we just got to unpackage it. And this straw that comes on the side is just going to screw into the top of the container. And to actuate the device, all you have to do is pull your fingers against the can and it's going to spray out the tip. I'm going to begin by shaking this up really well and then placing the straw back into the crack here at the top and spray around the whole door like so. Here's a little tip about spray foam. Don't mess with it when it sprays out the side like this and swells up. Wait for it to dry, then take a utility knife and cut it, and it just breaks right off. If you want to see how I installed this window, or if you want to see how to install an interior door, check out this video or check out this video. It'll help you out.